What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles welcoming you to another installment of Lyles Movie Files. Joining me as always is the little brother Jayce. How you doing, bro? Shot?
If the window's right,
There
I'm
you
doing
go.
good.
You're right. You're absolutely right this time. Last episode you were all over the place, but yes.
Yeah, I was like, I see it this way. You flip the camera. I didn't know which way. So,
Y'all a mess. All right. Things that are all a mess do not involve anything with Disney Plus. Let's talk about them before we go to DC, which is decidedly a mega mess. First up, Miss Marvel. I'm still conflicted as to why Disney was like, yo, we've got Obi-Wan going, let's also put out Miss Marvel. Because for those of us who stay up till 3 o'clock to watch certain shows, it's a little tricky. But I finally watched Miss Marvel, and I absolutely loved it. I just think that what they did with this felt like an ABC 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s sitcom where the kid is the star and the family's cool. They're not annoying, but it's all about the teen who's a star. And the parents were great. Her brother wasn't a jerk. I love the fact that they didn't go with the typical, the big sibling's going to be a nuisance, a pest the whole time. Her brother was cool. Her best friend is cool. She's got another friend at school. And this was probably the first superhero show that I was not rushing for them to get her into a costume, showing off her powers. If anything, that may have been my least favorite part of the episode because I was just loving the family dynamic of the cons. What did you think about this opening episode?
Because I don't know that much about. I know Ms. Marvel. I know in the comics she was an Inhuman, and since we have kind of, I don't know what we'll talk about on the Inhumans when it comes to how we're dealing with that in MCU. Like we got Black Bolt, and we got maybe Quake. I don't know. But we decided to do a little different. So I was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. But I definitely said I like the family dynamic, like the not having. I mean, it's like because I don't know anything about her, so I need all the background. Like, okay, she's. They did kind of play like iCarly, Hannah Montana almost. I mean, like kind of very much a Disney show, and then maybe the superhero will come next. So it's like, okay, but I did a lot of times those shows, like when our cousin, like a little cousin would have watching those in the background where we're like, wow, that's not funny. This one didn't have that problem. I actually genuinely laughed during moments when I was like the opening credits makes you laugh. There's another couple moments here like that was genuinely funny. There's no caveat, no asterisk. That was funny, and I think I appreciated that. Like, all right, for my opening episode, I got some humor. And I'm understanding kind of the family. I can go from here. It's a bad move, I think, to have this the same time as Obi-Wan because it was almost like I'm gonna go Obi-Wan. Oh, I guess this is on. I'll also check this out. But it's Obi-Wan first. It's like,
yeah, it was interesting because I feel like this is a crowded time period for shows. You've got Stranger Things, you've got The Boys, you've got Obi-Wan. Now you throw Miss Marvel in the mix and it's like, there's so much stuff. And typically that wouldn't be a bad thing, but there's going to be a lull at some point where there's just nothing. It's going to like, I wish they had spaced some of this stuff out a little bit better. But I think Miss Marvel is right up there, right just a notch below Obi-Wan in terms of my priority viewing. I still haven't finished season 4 of Stranger Things because Mike is a tool. And yeah, I talked about it in the last week, but I guess you've gone a little further and you know exactly what I'm talking about now.
I destroyed that whole season. I hadn't finished season 3, and somehow within the span of 2 or 3 days, I finished 3 and 4, and I'm like, we need to talk about season 4 when you actually finish it.
Okay,
we definitely need to talk about that.
Okay, but I love how Kamala is a fangirl, and that's something that we haven't really seen in anything, where she's all about the heroes, and I think that's what made her so refreshing as a comic book character because readers can relate to her. She's shipping characters, and you pointed out something that was cool. I want you to mention that in a second. But I love in the animation as she's breaking down the in-game fight against Thanos. And I love that she got all that from Scott Lang's podcast, which was hilarious.
Did you actually find? I found it funny. I had to laugh because I was like, why is it the Hawkeye in the cartoon was cooler than they made Hawkeye until Hawkeye shows? Come on, guys.
Right.
Like,
so that was funny. So we had that, and then I love the Mike Tyson's Mike Tyson's Punch Out, where Thanos had a little crown like King Hippo, and then was like down. That was funny. But mention that part that I heard and I thought it was funny, but then you reminded me there was a whole other level to that.
Yeah, it was like at the end of that scene, she's like, "Hey, check out my next podcast because I got some secret info that there's a history that Thor might actually be a gamer, and if you somebody who just watched Endgame is like, oh, that's right, he is literally on the mic actually screaming to what was it, nerd whatever. He's actually gonna put his head up his butt. It's like yeah, you hear that voice, you're like, hey, was that Thor who just said that to me?
And I think one thing that I find really interesting with the post-Endgame future of the MCU is people know the Black Widow and Iron Man are dead, but at the Avengers Con, which we'll go into later, how do people know what the Guardians of the Galaxy look like? It wasn't like they were hanging around on Earth at any point in time. They fought Thanos and bounced. So I don't know how there was all this merchandise and people like, oh yeah, this is what they look like.
I mean, you got Scott Lang. And he probably does. Because you're like Groot. He's like, it's Mr. Tree. He doesn't remember who Groot's name was, so he's just like Mr. Tree or whatever, And like he probably had enough of imagination. It's like, hey, I'm an engineer, so I'm probably a pretty good drawer. So I can at least do sketches of these people to kind of like, oh yeah, that guy was there. We're best buds. I call him Mr. Star thing. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah, it was just funny because I was like, why would these people know that? And I thought it was kind of funny with Rogers the Musical, where they stuck to the Avengers outfits from the first one, at least all of the musical that we saw. We saw their original costumes. And I thought that made a lot of sense because so much of what they do beyond that is really away from eyes where people are seeing them in Sokovia. It's not like everybody has video cameras and is recording what they're doing because they're literally in the sky and everybody else is trying to get the heck out of there. And
you think about it, I'm sure some of those people on those rescue boats were live streaming like, oh my gosh, I just got saved by Quicksilver. Wait, how the heck is Quicksilver dead beside me? That makes no sense.
He's a speedster. How could he not see bullets?
A bullet? Like, seriously?
Still not letting that go. And never let it go. Never let you go. Never let you go. But yeah, I love the show. I think that they made a pretty decent compromise with the bracelet kicking off her powers. Maybe we can still use that connection that her aunt or grandmother who had that before?
I feel like it was an aunt.
Okay. Maybe she's an Inhuman and it's some Terrigen Mist in there and it just unleashed her powers. So if they still wanted to go that Inhuman route, they could. It's wide open. It's still at least at this point. But they did kind of work in her embiggen powers where she did the stretchy deal. And I was like, okay. I think for a character like Miss Marvel, some of her fun is that she can go big and stretch her limbs out and all that kind of fun stuff. And it makes for a fun character even more fun because she looks cool in just a visual sense because she's stretching out and doing all that stuff. I assume, much like with Scarlet Witch, they didn't want to have any blurring of the lines with Mr. Fantastic and her powers, especially when Mr. Fantastic is coming, because they didn't want to confuse mainstream audiences. Hey, he's ripping off Kamala's powers.
Well, I think mainstream is like that ship's kind of sailed. It's like there were Fantastic Four movies. It's not like no one remembers them.
You would be surprised how much people forget these movies, and everyone should forget that last one.
Again, like it's on Disney Plus, and you might have checked it out. Like, and it was on Netflix for the longest time. So you people who wanted to would probably remember that they saw some commercials, like. But I think it probably is much more they didn't want to confuse people. Like, yeah, we're gonna have these guys as a very high. They're gonna be a movie character, so let's not try and duplicate powers at any stretch if we don't have to.
I see what you did there with Stretch. Nice. Well played. Alright, so Miss Marvel's good. Go watch it. It's a lot of fun. And don't worry about no supervillain showing up or some cameo. Just watch it. It's fun and a good time. Now let's talk Obi-Wan Kenobi. So our minds were sufficiently blown with the clash of Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. And episode 4, part 4 picks up basically right after that. Obi-Wan is burned. Like, there are significant burn marks on him. He's got to go spend the time, a little dunk in the Bacta tank. Those Bacta tanks must be gold during the Empire era, because if you got one, you are set. It's like the Lazarus pit of Star Wars.
You know, the funny thing is, like, that is, like, in the video game, The Old Republic, the Bacta is literally, like, half the reason, like, the war is always fought trying to make sure the place that makes Bacta is you have access, and it makes perfect sense.
I totally get it.
Holy, it's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like, everybody wants that Bacta.
Yeah, you need the Bacta, baby. So that was, and I loved how Deborah Childer, the director, did like a cut between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in his little pool or whatever it is. I don't know if he cares about getting healed up, so he's just chilling in there and being suspended, and we're seeing both of them kind of reflect on the fight. And there's no smile on Anakin / Vader's face, but Obi-Wan wakes up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, get me out of here!" And the trauma still exists, and it's still real.
Yeah, I think one of the really things I really like about this show so far has been, was the great idea to just have one director running the whole thing, not switching any tones. Like, hey, you can write different, but the direction is like, it's not jarring. And it's like she did it. I think Deborah Chow did a great job on, like, hey, I got this. You're gonna enjoy it. And she's done a great job.
So I'm so happy that I finished Jedi Fallen Order before watching this show, because there's so many similarities with characters. And then I felt like there was a scene directly from Fallen Order where, all right, we're gonna go invade the Inquisitor's base, which is basically a big part of Fallen Order, and you got to go underwater and do all this stuff, and Obi-Wan's doing that. But before I go back to the Inquisitors, let me talk about how cool Tala is. I love Tala. She's a great character. Reminds me so much of Jyn Erso, just in the sense of no one is feeling the extra need to prop her up. She's just a good character, and she does cool things, which invariably makes audiences like me, like you, go, she's cool. We don't need every character going, Tala's so amazing, she's so cool. We can see her do cool stuff. She's cool.
Yeah, I think, and no one likes anybody, because it's you don't want a hero that has to be propped up. I think if you've listened to our podcast, if you've watched the YouTube videos, you see most of our complaints are when the hero has to be propped up. Like, it's just like, you should just want to be a hero. You shouldn't wait till, oh my gosh, you're so awesome, now go do something we need you to do. It's like, that shouldn't be how we adulate our heroes. I mean, and it's like, hey, you do it, thanks, we appreciate you. And Tala was like, yeah, this might blow my cover, but let's go. It was like, that was like, okay, I can do this gag one time, and after that, I am public enemy number 5. Like, I'm gonna do it because it'll help the galaxy. And I think we all like, hey, I actually saved Obi-Wan. Y'all want me to say this, Luke? Leia? I think let's go. And it wasn't like, Tala, oh my gosh, you're the great. Thank you, Tala. My gosh, we could never run the underground if it wasn't for Tala. Like, so we get it.
So we got to see O'Shea Jackson Jr. as Roken, and he was very sensible. Hey man, you're gonna mess everything up. I need you out of here. And I like when characters get that kind of blowback from other people who talk sense and don't just go, okay. But that was a really nice reveal that he was married to a Jedi, and the Inquisitors hunted her down and killed her. And he was just like, all right, whatever. I'm getting payback. I'm getting revenge, and I'll help you out. So like that. And then we had 2 pilots. None of them are rebellion members. They're not fighters. This is still a little bit before Ezra and crew are getting people and starting up everything. I love this period.
There is no rebellion, probably. I think we're not going to see anything in a true rebellion until Andor. So it's literally like 5 or 6 years before that spark of hope is even in the galaxy. It's like everybody's just like, we're under 10 years in Imperial rule, and it sucks.
Right. And I think this is such a fascinating period for Star Wars with their TV shows and animation, because it's, what are we going to do? The Empire is running everything. So I was kind of thinking with the Bad Batch, I would have loved if we got 2 seasons of them just in the middle of the Clone Wars, being a crack elite, separatist bashing crew, faction, squad, whatever you want to call them. And then that 3rd season, or at the end of season 2, we see, oh shoot, Order 66 has started. And then we see what's going on. Because I feel like I didn't get enough of what I really wanted from the Bad Batch. And now it's like, okay, but they're operating in this space of, here's what's going on immediately after the Empire takes over. And I think that's really fertile ground. So we've got Obi-Wan set 10 years. So there's so much material that they can continue to mine at this point in the Star Wars saga. And then we're going to have Andor, which is going to be a little bit later after Obi-Wan. And we know at some point Rebels gets into this mix as well. And this show is really making me get like, okay, I got to rewatch Rebels. I got to watch Rogue One again. I feel like Obi-Wan, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Rebels, Clone Wars, Jedi Fallen Order has totally rekindled my complete obsession, love of all things Star Wars, most things Star Wars. And they've just set it up so well where it's like, man, so much feeds into something else. And, oh, cool, this is referencing the prequels. And this is teasing stuff we're going to see later on in the original trilogy. It's really a great time to be into Star Wars, especially for people like you and I who were able to watch the original trilogy as they came out and watch them on constant rotation on TV, burn through the VHSs.
VHS.
And yeah,
special edition VHS.
Yeah, the whole deal. It's just like we got to see it from the start, and to see where it is now is really exciting.
I mean, a funny thing is, I really want to see, like, I'm hoping Andor does a really good job of, like, Vader is bad. I mean, like, Obi-Wan, I really appreciate, like I said last week, they didn't make Vader some conflicted dude who just wasn't as bad as you really thought. They made that dude evil, and I appreciate that. I hope Andor goes a little further. It's like, you got to make it so the Empire has to look bad. It can't look like it's you can't see, oh well, they could have had it right. I hope they go to real, just these dudes are horrible, bad, and this is what really sparks the rebellion. Like, everybody else has their small little things, but I hope they use Andor really as it's like, nah, we've seen, like, because there's no Death Star, but you need to get to that point where they're blasting systems out, they're starved. I mean, like, really showing this is a fascist, just horrible government, and this is why rebellion would start to topple them. Not because right now it still almost looks like, from a certain point of view, Darth Sidious is right. It's like, hey, the Jedi could have stopped the Separatists. I did. They could have not tried to assassinate me, but they did. Do I need to mention that I started the Clone Wars? That's irrelevant. We don't need to get there. It was Dooku when I told him to, but do you need to know that now? I think they got to get to the point where it's like, nah, these guys are just horrible. They need to be taken out apart, and that's why you see the spark of the rebellion and Andor, Rogue One, and Rebels, and you're gonna be like, yeah, they had it coming to them. Get it, guys.
Yeah. So, very minor aside, because I know we're on Obi-Wan, and I'm just going all these different directions. These joints are making it so hard now for me to figure out how to watch Star Wars. Because and I'm not complaining, but before it was a very simple Star Wars, Empire, prequels, Return of the Jedi, call it a night, thank you. Now it's like there's so many levels to it. All right, it's where do I slide in the prequels? Because, I always thought that if you watch it, just like, you can't watch it like in an evening or a weekend now. You're just like set aside a month. But if you were exposing this to someone who, for the very first time, never seen anything, I would have always said, if they were in a bubble and didn't know about Darth Vader, it's better to go Star Wars than Empire, the big bombshell, and then show how Anakin became Darth Vader.
Your 3-movie, I always disagree with you. Your 3-movie flashback, I'm like, I much more like the sequential order of the movies. And now it's like, there's no way you could watch that without are you just gonna really forget about Rogue One?
I feel like it is.
There is no way. If I'm going to Star Wars marathon, I am skipping Rogue One. It's nope. Just can't do it. And that directly feeds into New Hope. So it's like, can't do it.
I think they have done so much supplemental material now that you have to watch it in chronological order. And I think some of why I was going it makes more sense to put the prequels in the middle is because the technology is, hey, I've got this brand new CGI, I can do all this cool stuff. And watching that and then going to Star Wars is a big leap. But I think between Obi-Wan, Andor, and Rogue One, they're dialing down the technology to make it line up better with Star Wars, A New Hope. And then it'll feed into that smoother. So then after Return of the Jedi, we've got The Mandalorian, Seasons 1 and 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian 3 or Ahsoka / Rebels 5. So much stuff. It's a secret, right? But yeah, man, I'm loving it. So anyway, we had Obi-Wan realizing that Leia is captured by Reva and the Inquisitors. We've got to go to the base.
We all seeing Reva.
When we get to Reva soon. So they go to the base, and I love the setup of the Inquisitors headquarters. It's surrounded by water. I thought that was a really cool contrast to Mustafar, which is all black and red and lava flowing. This is deep water. And Obi-Wan gets in, and he's still trying to, how do I get back to the Force? How do I do this? And then when he's starting to deflect those stormtrooper blasts, you could see it was like, oh, that muscle memory started kicking in. And then he did his little twirl with the lightsaber. Was like, yeah, he's back. He's starting to believe. So that was fun.
He is the one.
Right. He is the one, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. They've done a good, it's like, and it's just 4 episodes and you're like, I had that realization today. I'm like, wait, there's just 2 more weeks of this? I didn't sign up for this. I'm like, but I also, there's a hope in my head. I'm like, you do know what probably should happen in episode 5, right? That should be the return, the return of the duel. I'm like, it's like that probably means a Vader sighting. Like, I'm always down for that.
I feel like Obi-Wan has to start clearing the field a little bit.
But he can't. That's the funny thing. All of the Inquisitors that they use for this, except Reva, are in Rebels.
Now, question, because I'm trying to remember. In Rebels, are they all done with by the time the show is done?
Oh yeah, they're either killed by Ezra or Maul.
That's right. Okay. That's
and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
The last Ahsoka duel before we saw her in
Clone Wars.
In Mandalorian.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the same kind of duel, but yeah, I got you. Okay, so yes. Now
whoa. You say that wasn't the same kind of duel?
She didn't have a lightsaber when she was fighting Ahsoka.
I'm talking about Ahsoka versus Darth Vader.
No, not that. Oh, you're talking that one. I thought you were talking about the one on Mandalorian. No, the Vader one absolutely counts.
I was like, what the hell is wrong?
That absolutely counts.
I'm about to lead this on my own podcast.
So, we've got that. Now let's go to Reva, who's starting to become problematic. And we've talked ad nauseum about how stupid these idiots are, about how much, oh, we can't stand Reva, she's black. Ah! But there is a real problem that Reva is way too competent on every possible level. And I don't even understand how she's the third sister. She should have been the Grand Inquisitor from jump because she never makes a mistake. She's always 18 steps ahead of everyone and knows and plans for any contingency, even though it makes no sense. So this episode was the absolute worst. Because last week I was kind of like, how did Reva get ahead of Leia while she's in a tunnel? Like, how did she get to the other side of the tunnel? She didn't even know where the tunnel was.
That was there, didn't it? It's like, it's a tunnel. You can't figure out the end point of the tunnel if you've never been in the tunnel. Like, yeah. I'm sure I know where this underground railroad tunnel is going to pop up.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't say, oh, I used the Force to figure out who was going to meet. Like, that, no.
Yeah.
You can't be, I mean, it's like, that. It was like, yes, it looks menacing, but when you think about it, it's like, nah, that's not... It gets you to the point you get this conflict you want, but it's like you gotta almost make it look like it's an accident versus an all-seeing know-it-all. Like
yeah.
we don't like that. I mean, I think now it's like we don't want to come in. I don't want to be associated with those idiots who have issues regardless. I got actual factual issues of where they decided to go with Reva right now. It's like, and now we're 2 episodes in. I mean, 2 episodes left. I'm going to need to see why, she has this hard on for... Oh, gosh, I'm turning the whole PG-12 off. I need to figure out why she hates Obi-Wan so much. I need some backstory on her, because it's like, most of the Inquisitors, we assume are just Force-sensitive, but we kind of, in our heads, like, she's probably one of those kid Jedi we saw in the first episode. And we need to kind of build on that, and... why it's like we can see that's why the other Inquisitors hate her, because it's like you came in this after you got turned from the Jedi, but we are left to imply that it's being implied versus we need to actually see is that a thing. And I think otherwise it's like, oh, the reason why I know why good guys do this because I was taught by these people. It's like we need that context in there. It's like, okay, we might not like it, but we understand.
Yeah. And so this episode, Reva went to a whole other level. She's interrogating Leia and really like trying to manipulate her. And I like that. That was good. And Leia was like, I don't care what you say. I'm not giving up anybody. I'm not naming names. Love that. That shows that young spark, that fire that she's got that we see throughout the rest of the original trilogy. And it just seemed very much in line with Leia. And Obi-Wan and Tala managed to go in and Obi-Wan finds a crypt of Jedi. That was like, oh man. I was looking real close. I didn't see anyone that I was supposed to remember. Did you?
You know, I saw the dude with Dread, but I'm like, is that not Kyle, Quaylen Voss? But it's like, no, they wouldn't have mentioned him that throwaway if they were just gonna throw away his like kind of. They would, or at least they would have actually shown you him, the Quaylen Voss, in there. But other than that, it was just, oh, these are random people and a youngling who was like, hey, he was probably turned the exact same time that Reva was turned, but he didn't turn.
Yeah.
So it's his punishment. But I was like, and it looked sinister. I think that's the visual of sinisterness was very well done.
Yeah. So Reva is just, I don't know what her deal is. It's like it really sincerely seemed that she thought Obi-Wan had died, right? Or was she like lying? Okay.
No, she was lying because she's trying to manipulate a 10-year-old.
Okay. All right. So Reva gets called from interrogating Leia to deal with Tala who they're not quite sure if she's lying to them or she's a spy for the Empire. And that's all of her interaction with Leia. And then Leia gets broken free by Obi-Wan. He's pulling out the lightsaber tricks. He's opening up the water tunnels. Really cool stuff. Great moments from Obi-Wan. Vader then comes... Go ahead.
That's it. Also from Fallen Order.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Very much is like, if you guys don't understand these are call-outs, like, from Fallen Order, you guys need to play the game. It's like, and we'll play, I mean, very much like, yeah, like, that looks like the Inquisitor Fortress that I had to have some issues with.
Exactly. Some nightmares. I'm kind of thinking Cameron Monaghan is not doing anything. Can he show up, 1 or 2? Can we just get a Fallen Order series? Just putting it out there.
I mean, they're remake. They're doing a part 2 of the game. If you'd like to have a cameo in season 2 of Kenobi, not gonna stop you.
Yeah. All right. So then Vader is pissed. Somehow Obi-Wan came to the base, took Leia, and he is looking for next to snap. Oh, here's Reva, and he is like, Rick! And it's like, yes, this is Vader going hard. But this is where I think the writers have really backed themselves into a corner with her, because she cannot make a mistake, because if she does, Vader's going to snap her neck. And that may still happen over the course of these next 2 episodes, but until then, she has to be flawless, because we already know she has 0 leash now. She can't make a mistake, or Vader's going to kill her.
This is kind of like, and I know, and I mean, it's like kind of this, I don't want it to be satisfying when a bad guy gets there coming up from another bad guy. I want it to be a good guy coming. Like, the way it's painted, like, Vader's just gonna get pissed, and it's like, he's just gonna hit an Empire Strikes Back Vader Day. I don't want explanations, get out of my face. I don't care. Like, apology accepted, Reva.
Yeah.
Get lost. I don't want the folks that genuinely did not like her based on joke to feel satisfaction when she dies. I think that's the big thing. I don't want them any satisfaction at all. But it's probably gonna come, and it's like, because it just can't. She can't be this flawless. She's gonna overpromise one thing, and Vader is going to kill her. It's not gonna be Obi-Wan. It's Vader going to kill her.
Yeah. So then we get to the most ridiculous part of the series, the season, where Reva's like, actually, no, I slipped the tracking device in Leia's droid so we can follow her. And I was just like, what the heck? That makes no sense. Because she had Leia at the Inquisitor's fortress where no one could just casually pop in and be like, hey, I'm coming to get the princess. All right, catch y'all later. That was a big stretch, assuming that Obi-Wan or anyone could go in through all that. And if she had that concern, why didn't she have more stormtroopers guarding Leia when she was doing anything else? When she was taking a bathroom break, why didn't she have 20 stormtroopers with her?
Like, remember, she's interrupted from her interrogation of a very important prisoner to deal with something else. So in that time, yes, she could have. I mean, and I'll trust. Yes, she could have slipped a tracker. But what does she have as tracker? She's just gonna like a pockets full of trackers randomly, puts them in droids. Like, no, that didn't make sense. It's like, oh, I'm actually dealing with a high level prisoner. Tell fifth brother to go handle that. Like,
handle that stuff.
Is also on planet. Like, let's go handle that. I got my thing to deal with. That didn't like. And it's like, oh well, the reason she used that. It's like, you're really stretching.
That was a stretch.
She decides to take the interruption, but during that time, she slips tracker into the droid, and then magically, because I don't remember how because that even that doesn't make sense, because it's like she had to give Leia the droid back. I did not see her give Leia the droid back.
She could have put Lola on the table. That I'm.
Well, they did. But again, you do that, you have to show her putting the droid in there. Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense. It's like, how do you just randomly not let Leia see you put a tracking droid?
She wasn't looking up at her the whole time. So it was like, she was kind of looking down. Oh, no. She could have slipped it. She's a Jedi. Or Force sensitive. I get that. My main problem is why she put a tracking device in Lola in the first place. She had no reason to do that. There's no incentive. And we mentioned this on text. Vader in Star Wars was like, I want a tracking device on this ship that I know is coming to try to free the princess. She can be of use to us. Oh, okay. I killed Obi-Wan. I'm feeling good about myself. Let him go, and then we'll follow them to Yavin and blow them up and be done with the rebellion. That made perfect sense. In Empire, he is prepared, taking every precaution. He is tired of chasing after the Millennium Falcon for these last days or whatever. This last week. He's been chasing it, hunting them down. He's found them. He's not going to let them get out of his sight. And he knows now that this is his main pathway to Luke. Slip a tracking device on there because Luke will clearly go back to whoever's in the Millennium Falcon, and because that's his crew. That's his main friend group.
He doesn't have access to the Red 5, so he's going. He needs a rescue, and they're coming for him.
They're coming for him.
They came for him. He came for them. They're going to come back for him. Yeah, that's easy understanding in it.
And in both of those cases, Vader knows that other people are en route coming. So it's Han, Obi-Wan, Luke, Chewie, etc. They're coming to the Death Star. So he's got time to slip a tracking device whenever. He knows when they go, hey, this X-Wing is coming. Perfect. I'll go deal with him. You put a tracking device in the Millennium Falcon. Those all check out. There's no way Reva is going, hey, go put a tracking device in that droid. That doesn't make any sense.
No. And it's like, how do you know? Like, because Obi-Wan might have actually been too injured to help. He might have sent somebody else. Like, they might. So it would have been. And if it's not Obi-Wan, Vader's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So it's not like he doesn't care about other Jedi. He's like, that's y'all's job. Like, I'm here for Obi-Wan. I will sit in my back to tank. I'm not here for any random dudes. Like, y'all. That's why I basically trained y'all morons to do this. Like,
y'all handle my light work.
Yeah, and it's like, oh well, I decided to let them. It's like, wait, so you expected some Jedi to infiltrate our ginormous tower full of stormtroopers, death troopers, Imperial officers, and Force-sensitive moron. Get through all of those and still get licked. So I'm thinking, at point Vader should have just killed half y'all just to show how incompetent you were for letting him in the first place and not keeping him here. Like, I didn't need to go leave out of here. You should have kept him here.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to pay for that.
Exactly. So,
like, Empire Strikes Back, Vader would not have let that hit. He would have not let that slide.
He would not have. So it's just, I think the writers really need to be careful going forward with Reva because she can't anticipate everything every time. Otherwise, she just becomes a bad character.
Yeah, I think I hate to say this, I think next episode probably needs to be her last episode. Like, and it needs to go from her to Vader versus Obi-Wan.
In episode 6, yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm tired of waiting for Obi-Wan. I know how to get him here. Get out of my way. Like, I think it's like, and we still got to figure out, because of the one, I mean, our episode 2 problem, you can't kill maybe that Grand Inquisitor. We need a introduction of another one who looks more like the one from Rebels is Grand Inquisitor to take over.
There's still plenty of time for him to show up.
Yeah, we need the actual, because it's like we know there's a title Grand Inquisitor just gets passed along, but probably need to, like, hey, we're not discrediting Rebels by having a guy who looks kind of like that dude. Like, so yeah, I would appreciate putting the more Rebels looking Grand Inquisitor into.
Maybe he's around to fight. Let me jump ahead here. I had other things I want to talk about, but I absolutely need to talk about this bit of news coming from DC. In its latest Variety report, there's some mixed thoughts on the future of the WB, the DC characters. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav is frustrated that DC's cinematic output has been inconsistent and that there hasn't been sufficient long-term planning in terms of rolling out sequels and follow-ups to popular movies.
Man of Steel.
Alright, well, they're addressing that. They've announced Joker 2 is coming to the light of not me. And We got an Aquaman sequel. I mean, they've done a sequel to Wonder Woman. They've done sort of a sequel to Suicide Squad. It does seem very weird. We don't have a Man of Steel. We never got a standalone Ben Affleck Batman movie. Those are two bad mistakes. Flash is still in limbo right now. It's just a weird setup of how they've done things. But this was the real part that I thought you were going to find was very funny. So this Variety article says whoever's in charge of DC is going to face challenges, including the fate of Superman, for suggesting that Henry Cavill might be aging out of the role. Now, that could be the writer's take, but Henry Cavill's 39 years old and he does not look like he's too old to be Superman, too old to play the Man of Steel. They just need to go, Henry, what is it going to take to make this right? Bring him back. Every time I watch him in any of these DC Superman films, he's got the right idea, and I think they just need to change to make more of a lighthearted Superman. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like, if you've paid attention, like, today, like, the head of DC, Warner Brothers, is stepping down, and Ray Fisher's like, glad to see you go. I mean, it's very much one of those deals. It's like they've screwed up that whole Warner Brothers DC movie property eras. And it is very much like, it spans your life. There's too much fertile ground for y'all to not be making money. You guys should have 3 movies planned on like an arc of these movies before we go to jump. Like, we should know what the 3rd movie is before, like, where do you want to take us? Like, you don't have to have it all fleshed out, but now that we've gone and left the Snyderverse, which Snyderverse was going to take us there, but you guys didn't want to go there. So it's like, all right, we have actors, like, nobody's talking about Gal Gadot aging out, and she's not aging out. I just watched her in what was it, Death on the Nile. Like, yeah, she's not aging out. Y'all got 2 or 3 more movies, easy. You have to. I mean, you have to. And unfortunately, because you guys didn't sign up on Ben Affleck, you gotta recast a Batman for that universe. You need Henry Cavill back. It's 100%. Like, you can't have a dude that's like, I'm willing to pitch a daggone script to help them get me back in this role. Like, it makes no sense. And it's like, yes, you do need, some people's heads need to roll because they weren't competent. They didn't, if you didn't want Snyderverse, you should have came up with a plan after. So as much as I love reading some of Jeff Johns' books, but it's like, Jeff Johns, you were in charge, you're no longer in that role. Like, you should have had, Pandemic should have had 3 movies lined up ready to go. And it shouldn't have been delayed. We should have had 3 great movies a year, because are we competing against Marvel or are we not? Or are we just having these trash Elseworld things that I know I've talked about people like, oh, mess around with these Elseworld, but that's what y'all's big universe is a bunch of Elseworld crap. Like, yeah. You could literally have, like, Superman is General Zod's kid and call that the next movie, and they'll be like, well, see, we made a Superman movie. Like, you're idiots. Like, she for getting to him far better than I can. But it's like, they need to say, hey, what is our 10-year plan? Like, straight up, we got the people. What are we doing? Because we need writers attached, directors, script writers to attach to properties on all this. And we might not have a big blowout movie, but we need 3 movies for all of these guys and ready to go in the next 18 months and get them in production as soon as humanly possible. And anybody who's not willing to do that, get lost.
So we got the new Black Adam trailer, and I didn't feel... So when I watched the trailer for Green Lantern, after I watched it, I was like, this is okay. But as a movie that came out in 2008, was it 2011 for that? I felt like it had missed the boat, and it really felt like if it had come out in early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, people would be like, oh, it's great. But coming out so late, it felt like a relic. And watching Black Adam, I had no excitement. I was just like, ugh.
You had no excitement because it's DC.
Well, some of that is just because I feel like Dwayne Johnson really doesn't feel the need or care about mixing up his character portrayals. So he's really the same character in every movie. And The Rock is my man. He's super charismatic, but I don't know. I was just like, yeah, he kind of looks the part of Black Adam, I guess, but I don't know if he's the best. What's the man's name? Arnold Vosloo. Was in Scorpion King or Mummy, one of those. I think he would have made for a better, the Mummy. And he's super old now, but I know he's too old. But he's more of a guy who I would think of as Black Adam. I think Dwayne Johnson is just going to play The Rock in this movie, and the trailers don't make me think he's any different than Hobbs or anybody else that he's played. Roadblock, just same dude. And I was really annoyed.
More Hobbs to me.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Yeah, I was a little blown watching the trailer and seeing the costume designs of characters for the first time, because I was like, why does Black Adam not just have the gold boots? I mean, why does he need to be all black? And what is the deal with Hawkman having a red shirt? I was just red armor.
They didn't want the dude with his shirt off the whole time. I mean, I'm sure that would have been annoying for you, dude. You got to carry these wings in CGI or whatever, and like that's they always like say that's the thing. We're not doing that. But I looked at it like,
wait a second. In Smallville, didn't no boy not have?
I just watched it. He had a gold chest plate because they actually had the wings on there, and it wasn't
no CGI. But I mean, a gold one. I don't know where they got this red thing from. It's like, why are y'all doing this? It's just the colors are weird.
But I mean, like, it was funny because it was like y'all are trying to make him an anti-hero, but it's like,
right.
It's kind of funny. It's like, if you want to do that, you got to go way into his mythology, kind of like when it's Isis and him, like that. I think it was pre-52 when you actually had the Black Adam comic. Like, that was really good. I was mad they actually canceled that. But you got to take it something like there, and then you're trying to shoehorn the JSA in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Is he... And that's like in their group text, I'm like, is this the same Earth that has Superman? Because we've never mentioned the JSA. Like, I thought the JSA was going to be in the 50s, and, we weren't going to see Black Adam, because at that point, that would contradict Shazam. Why Shazam actually... He still technically has Shazam's powers. It's not like he can get them back. It's like... It was so much like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense to your universe, and why have we never heard of the JSA at all?
No, in Shazam, they mentioned the champion who kind of turned. That was clearly a reference to Black Adam. So they covered that. I just felt like this movie felt like a 2010 comic book movie. Like, the soundtrack was like, look at how cool we are. And it's just like, but it's not cool. I've watched these movies. I know you're not going to deliver what I want. And I think that was my main takeaway. Like, nothing in this movie made me go, oh, okay, maybe this is going to be the turnaround film.
The funny thing is, like, they talk about, hey, I think Henry Cavill's going to age out of the role. So, sorry, how old is Dwayne?
He's not young.
Because Dwayne is going to be in the role of Black Adam. I'm thinking at least 2 or 3 more movies, and he's going to get his fight with Superman. So you might as well pencil that in.
Dwayne Johnson is 50 years old.
We'll talk him aging out.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's aging out.
I keep watching that dude's workout videos. It's like, he ain't aging out.
He ain't aging out anything. His hair may have aged out years ago, but the rest of him, solid. Yeah. All right, well, it's that time of the year. Of the year? Yeah. I mean, I'm just wrapping into 2022.
Year for my dummy of the week.
Okay. It's that time of the week. Who is your nominee for dummy of the week?
Well, as I kind of cut you off, it is that time of the year for the annual sprinkling of Nick Cannon's canon. Baby number 9. Maybe 10. Who knows? 9 times.
Wow, Grace. That's a lot.
Nick Cannon is again seeding the world with his genetics. And baby number 9 is on the way. That man's never going to stop working. I mean, at this point, he's really going to have, like, it's going to be him, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. Not Gary Payton, but Sean Kemp. They're going to have a convention of just the kids. And they're going to be like, hey, which one are you? Oh, are we cousins? Because we got like we've been populating like the whole every place there are black people. We got folks. So.
I think Nick Cannon secretly wants to own a basketball team populated by his children. 3 more to go.
I mean, hey, Lonzo Ball. I mean, was Lonzo Ball's dad?
Lamar.
Hey, he stopped at 3. Lamar stopped at 3. He's like, I can get a whole team. By the end of this, I'm gonna get a team. So for Nick Cannon, him deciding it, you know.
I mean, the mascot's right there, the Cannons. So.
Hey, he might have to keep working to own a franchise, but he's gonna have the teams fielded. Right. No contract negotiations necessary.
All right, son number 7, I got you. You get a salary increase. Yeah. My dummy of the week is all these idiots who are review bombing Obi-Wan Kenobi on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience score for it right now is 58% because, oh my gosh, black people! Diversity in my Star Wars, keep it away. So stupid. And I understand why Rotten Tomatoes has this setup where people can just go and trash it to this degree. The critic score is 88%. Typically, in the biggest extreme, there's like a 10% difference between the critic, the audience. In most cases, the critics may be harsher than the audience. This is a major 30% shift in opinion, and I think Rotten Tomatoes needs to do something about this.
Didn't they do that for one show and they were like, yeah, we're taking down these reviews because they're not justified?
Yeah, I checked it because I wanted to see if they had actually done something because it's just absurd. I mean, it's like, I don't know if people care about the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes because it's not like people are going for the audience. I mean, you can just go to the critics for that, and the audience is just everyone else. And typically, no one on the audience is writing anything. So, I think it's just stupid. And I don't know if what they think they're accomplishing here outside of, we made it rotten. Woo!
I mean, like, you think how they did with Black Lightning is like, Black Lightning got buried before it had a chance to take off. Like, they review bombed the heck out of that thing. And by episode 2, it was like in the 20s or something like that. And once everybody stopped bombing it, was like you were actually able to give it a legit score based on. It was still one of the CW's lowest rated shows. And there were some, like season 2 was justified for some of those low ratings after that. But like Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's like, do you really think anyone cares what the fans? No, not the fans. The same ones that Obi-Wan. I mean, Ewan McGregor says y'all are trash, and you are trash, and you're not Star Wars fans. Like, no one cares what y'all think.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing, and again, Rotten Tomatoes needs to do some sort of verification process or make it so people just can't go, I'm going to create a bot that's going to make all these negative reviews. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, it's stupid. But Obi-Wan Kenobi's not. We didn't even get to talk about The Boys. Another episode's dropping, so I want to get your take on that soon. And I will watch Stranger Things Season 4 so we can talk about that next week. Alright, Bro Shot. Thank you as always for rolling with me. Thank y'all out there for watching and listening. This episode of Lyle's Movie Files has been filed.